Yeah, it literally physically was, and still, exhausting 4 days later.
Hey, this is Dave Almy of ADC Partners. And as we all know, sports business changes a lot all the time, right? People go on to new jobs, their teams win championships, all kinds of crazy stuff. So every once in a while, it makes sense to go back and check in with someone we've had on the show before. And this time, we're checking in with Charles Nieves, who was our guest way back on episode 5.
Charles, when we first talked, you were at that point leading marketing efforts for Game Day Vodka. And you had left the University of Miami, where you'd been for a while, went on to do the brand marketing thing in a highly competitive industry, and then you made a change. So where are you now, and what are you doing?
Yeah, appreciate it, Dave. Right now, I'm Chief Revenue Officer, Executive Associate AD here at Georgia Tech, overseeing our non-fundraising revenue units as well as the brand marketing, social, comms, all that good stuff that comes with that. So did make a pivot to get back into sports and in a space that I hadn't been before, internal with the institute.
Right, because at Miami, Michigan, I don't know where that came from. At Miami, you were working with Learfield. You were on the multimedia rights, so still really revenue focused. But this kind of takes it up to the next level because your oversight is pretty significant. So I'm interested in, as you got started at Georgia Tech, I don't know if this is like news to anybody, but there's been some changes in college sports over the last couple of years. So as you made that change back onto the college side, now really deep in the administration,
Sure.
what caught you by surprise? I mean, was there anything that really stood out to you like, whoa, this is not what I expected, or anything like that?
Yeah, I think when you sit on the multimedia rights side, you have all these great ideas. Your job's to come up with ideas, opportunities to go sell, and sometimes some of those more innovative ones need the blessing of the institute or university. And when it's a no, you sit over there like, why can't you just tell me yes?
Yeah.
Well, what I've learned over here is there's a lot more red tape than just an athletic director or a CRO saying go sell that. Sometimes you have to bring in campus constituents. Sometimes you have to tap in the university president, the university as a whole, different professors and or the board of directors or the university group that oversees the entire system, right? And so, I think what I've learned is, it's a lot more intricate, not just one person that makes the decision, but you got to think of the whole ecosystem that plays a part in the process.
It's an interesting position, right? Because to your point, when you're on the multimedia rights side, you're you're always pushing, you're always trying to be innovative, you're always trying to look at what else can be done. You also brought that, I'm assuming, with Game Day Vodka, which was a startup company, and innovation and let's try new things, throwing things against the wall kind of fits that same sort of perspective. So, how do you mentally prepare yourself for sort of harnessing that entrepreneurial spirit, but within a larger sort of administrative organization that has to be really cautious and check itself? Is that a difficult balance to strike, or do you feel like you're evolving along the way with that?
No, I think you evolve along the way just naturally as to where college athletics is headed and going, and
Yeah.
things could change tomorrow, right? And so I think
They probably are really, and they probably changed in the time that we've been talking, which, about
I'm
5
sure
minutes
the
in.
ticker's already sent me something, right? That's going to explain who thinks what and why their opinion matters. But I'll tell you this, coming in a little bit green to be an internal helped me because I didn't have preconceived
Yeah,
notions
good
as to
point.
how things should be or how they were or how I used to do them. I had to hit the ground running, and the basis that I had was how does this make us money,
Yeah.
right? And so whether it's a social media post on Instagram or the music that we're playing in the stadium, I can go to even my non-revenue generating units and say, well, how does this help us drive ticket sales, or how does this enhance merch sales, or and really look at it from a perspective of the top and the bottom line, and because of where we're headed, in the college athletic space, that mindset has allowed me to build a revenue generating ecosystem, built on parameters of what we need to do and what's permissible and what's, compliant and all that good stuff. And allows my teams to go out and do their day to day autonomously, but with the collective mission of how does this make us money?
Do you feel like most universities are looking at this chief revenue officer role as sort of a new critical function inside their organizations? Like, do you feel like you're part of a new component of an athletic department? And if so, are there places that you can turn to and say, okay, well, how are other schools doing this? Or is this really just like, Charles, make it up?
A little bit of both, right? Charles,
Yeah.
Charles, make it up, right? Go find the dollars to a degree, right? With a ton of support around me to do so. But I have seen, over the past, 2 years of a lot of these roles pop up across the board, and
Yeah.
they're all tweaked and nuanced based on the respective institution. But what I found is I've started to build a cohort, if you will,
Yeah.
of CROs across the country at various powerful institutions to have conversation with.
Yeah.
How are you doing this? What are you doing? And how's it working? And be able to at least have, a basis of what others are doing across the
Hmm.
country to help leverage this role to help, generate, positive revenue.
What do you think so clearly it's becoming an important role. And I think there's probably a lot of people who are intrigued by it. Right. And I'm wondering what recommendations or suggestions you have for either people considering the it's easy for me to say, right? The CRO role at a university, or for universities looking to create the position, like based on what you've learned over your tenure thus far, what do you think they should be taking into account as they either think about the role or creating the role?
Yeah, great question. I think, a few things. Obviously, how do associated and relative units roll up to that, right? And I think oftentimes you hear CRO and you're only thinking, dollars and cents in those units that directly, raise dollars. But, again, I fortunate enough to lead our comms unit, our brand and, identity, our social media, creative, fan experience, because all of that indirectly drives revenue. So how do you, tie all those in so that, everyone's rowing in the same direction, but also, where you, pull your candidate from, oftentimes, what I found on the outside, the third party world is it was hard for someone like me to transition over in-house, if you will.
Mm,
What I've seen is the majority of these CROs are coming from external,
yeah.
from corporate, from entities that maybe think a little different than the standard development officer, right? And so, I'd encourage athletic departments across the country to be creative and be open minded with who they hire, because it was easy for me to come in and learn the nuances of academia and working with student athletes and compliance, but it's much harder for someone to go out and understand how to go drive revenue outside of tickets, outside of concessions, and the natural things that happen amongst a college athletic department.
Charles Nieves, he's now the chief revenue officer for Georgia Tech. And before I let you go, I mean, we got to talk about the game, right? I mean,
Big games.
so, what else can it be called? I mean, game versus Georgia, 8 overtimes. Can you give a little bit of your emotional roller coaster watching that game? I mean, what the heck was that like?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked about the roller coaster, of emotions, right? Because I was just
Oh.
sharing with some of my colleagues the ESPN win probability. In the last, 5 minutes of the
Literally
game,
was a roller
it was
coaster.
like this on the probability, and short week. Yeah, it literally physically was, and still,
Yeah.
exhausting. 4 days later, I can tell you this. We're really excited about what we're building on the flats here at Georgia Tech. And one of the things that,
Mm.
we were really intentional about is building a culture of success, elevating our standard of excellence, eliminating mediocrity and expecting to be great, and just becoming tougher across the board. And I can tell you all that was, very, very prevalent on the field on Friday. And, regardless of the win or the loss. What you saw was a team that has really come together and believes that they can win any game, right? And that's kind of the mindset that we have tried to, just spread across the athletic department. And regardless of what's happening on and off the field, the expectation is that we be great.
Yeah, when you go toe to toe with the two-time national champions for as long as you do, I know there's no such thing as a moral victory, but man, that made for some entertaining television watching, let me say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Charles Nieves, appreciate the time, man.
I appreciate you.